It's been so many years since graduation, I never thought I would meet Troy Gerber again in such a way. While serving a fruit platter, I pulled my hat brim down, afraid he would see my face. Carly Winter sat next to him. A handsome man and a beautiful woman, they looked like a perfect match. "Waitress," Troy called me, "slice the orange." I kept my head down and sliced the orange into pieces. A long time ago, when I loved eating oranges, Troy would always slice them for me. He had great knife skills and could cut each piece evenly. Back then, I thought he loved me. My thoughts were interrupted by the teasing around. Someone said, "I heard Mr. Gerber had a girlfriend for 4 years in college." My hand paused. Troy responded with a simple "That's wonderful, 4 years, a complete college period." Troy did not respond. "It's good enough that Troy didn't hate her," Carly explained leisurely. "If it weren't for his ex-girlfriend getting in the way back then, would Troy and I have taken this long to be together? Right, Ms. Winter is a big star. No matter how good the ex-girlfriend was, can she be better than a star?" The atmosphere warmed up again. I lowered my head further, just wanting to leave quickly. The fruit knife cut my hand, and I hissed, drawing the attention of the guests. "What's going on? Can't you even slice fruit properly?" Carly complained. "Sorry, I'll get a clean plate of fruit." I picked up the plate and was about to run. "Wait," he said word by word. "Turn around." My body felt nailed to the spot. 1 second, 2 seconds. The manager walked over at the right moment. "Hurry up and get a new one." I managed to escape. I got off work at 4 in the morning, the lights were off, and the elevator had stopped. I pressed the elevator button anxiously, hoping to light it up. "Make a call." Troy's voice suddenly came from behind me. Stiffly, I called my colleague. The elevator restarted, and Troy and I stood in the cramped space. "You get off work this late?" he asked indifferently. "We can only leave after all the customers are gone." I kept my head down, the brim of my hat covering my face. Troy seemed not to recognize me. He looked down at his watch. "This elevator is so slow, my girlfriend is probably anxious from waiting. She's very clingy and loves to act spoiled." I was stunned, realizing he was talking about Carly Winter. "What about you? Working so late, doesn't your boyfriend come to pick you up?" "I live nearby." The elevator arrived. As soon as the doors opened, I rushed out. The previously calm Troy finally erupted in anger at this moment. "Why are you running? Where do you think you can run to, Rita Cotton?" Ding! This novel reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. Troy stepped closer, inch by inch. He was still the boy I remembered, only now the naivety had faded, replaced by maturity and restraint. "Account deleted, phone number out of service, even the teachers couldn't find you." "Rita Cotton, you're really something." I slowly lifted my head and met his gaze. "You must have used your connections to find out, right?" "My family went bankrupt, my dad got into financial disputes, and he still hasn't paid off the debts." "Why didn't you tell me back then?" I was speechless. "Was it because of your pride, Miss Cotton?" "No." Before I could finish, Carly Winter walked over. "Rita Cotton? It really is you." She was even more beautiful than in college, refined down to every strand of hair. "Long time no see, the whole class has been looking for you. How come there's been no news from you for 4 years?" "I went to the South." "No wonder." Carly looked at my clothes, surprised. "Rita, isn't this the down jacket you bought in your junior year? It's all worn out. Why are you still wearing it?" "I used to buy clothes and only wear them for the first year before throwing them away." She asked this to embarrass me. But I was already numb. "It's not broken. Still wearable." Carly understood. "Are you having financial difficulties now? You should have said earlier, we can help you." She pulled out a card. "Take it, no need to return it." "Thanks, but I don't need it." I looked at her, then at Troy, and smiled quietly. "I'm getting married soon, remember to come to the wedding." As soon as I said that, Troy was completely stunned. I still remember, back in freshman year. Troy Gerber stood among the new students in his faded old clothes, looking completely out of place. He was visibly poor, but also visibly upright. I liked his cool, clear tone when he spoke. And I liked the way his thin eyelids drooped when he looked at me. Troy was very short on money, and his spot for financial aid was taken by a student with connections to the counselor. So one evening after class, I grabbed his soft hand like a wolf. "Troy Gerber, I like you. Be with me. I have plenty of money, we can share my living expenses. If that's not enough, I can even pay you just to kiss me." Of course, he refused. But at that time, my life was smooth sailing, and I didn't understand what frustration meant. The more he rejected me, the more I clung to him. Until the grandfather who raised him fell critically ill, I didn't bat an eye and paid off the medical bills for him. Troy finally gave in to me. I foolishly thought I had done a great favor. It was much later that I realized I got him, but I also crushed him. After we got together, he still worked every day to earn his living expenses. He barely used my money, but things got worse. Rumors about Troy started spreading in school. They said he sold himself for money. The way classmates looked at him changed, and someone gave him an unpleasant nickname. At that time, I was still optimistic and naive, holding his hand and saying, "Ignore them, they're just jealous." I lived in my ivory tower, never realizing that Troy was fighting alone. In our senior year, my family went bankrupt. I didn't tell Troy. I just called him out and said, "Let's break up." "Why?" "I'm tired of this." "Okay." Just like that, we parted ways. I guess he was happy at that time because he finally regained his freedom. On the day we broke up, I broke my SIM card, deleted my social media accounts, and took a train to another city to work and pay off debts. It wasn't until 3 months ago that I returned here. Troy looked great. He was always the top student, the kind of super genius who dominated the entire department in college. Just 4 years after graduation, he was already a rising star in the tech industry, gracing the covers of financial magazines. Carly Winter used to be the beauty of our class and had entered the entertainment industry by junior year. I didn't expect the two of them to be together. They looked like a perfect match. I clutched my chest, forcing down the bitterness. KTV is just my part-time job, I still have to work during the day. On Monday, a client came to the company. Colleagues were gossiping, "I heard this client is a genius. He originally created this system to find someone." Huh? Who? His ex-girlfriend, probably. My eyelids twitched, having a vague bad premonition. Did he find her? Don't know, the system isn't finished yet. The big shots have invested a lot of money, the prospects are limitless. Our boss also wants to cooperate with him. I organized the documents. At the reception room door, Troy's voice came through. "Regarding the cooperation, I need to think it over." I pushed the door open and placed the documents on the table. Troy's eyes burned. "What are you doing here?" "Working. This is my main job." The boss was curious. "Rita, do you know Mr. Gerber?" I considered and answered, "We've met." "Just met?" Troy was angry again. I didn't know what he was angry about. Wasn't he the one who didn't look back on the day we broke up? He pointed at me. "Mr. Lee, I can sign the contract, provided that Rita Cotton is transferred to be my assistant." The boss immediately agreed, not even giving me a chance to object. They talked all day. In the evening, I packed my bag and left work on time. Troy stopped me. "Where are you going?" "I haven't dismissed you yet." "Mr. Gerber, I can't work overtime today, I have other things to do." "What things?" "I have to deliver food." Troy looked at me incredulously. I used to be so pampered that I wouldn't even touch takeout. During 4 years of college, Troy would go deliver takeout after class. His dinner was often just a boxed meal from the delivery company. Once, I went to see him. In a cramped room, he and a group of delivery riders squeezed together, eating rice from their boxes. I said, "Troy, how can you eat this? It's not clean." He looked uncomfortable. "Does it matter if it's clean or not? Come on, let's go have steak." I dragged him to a newly opened Western restaurant where the average cost per person was over $500. He stood at the restaurant entrance for a long time, silently taking off his delivery uniform. After my family fell into hard times, I finally understood his emotions that day. Just like today. It snowed. The ground was very slippery, and I fell, spilling the food. I called the customer to explain, but was harshly scolded. The customer said, "Don't make excuses, late is late." The scraped palm hurt terribly in the winter cold, but I couldn't care less and kept apologizing to the customer. Troy suddenly appeared and helped me up with my bike. I didn't know when he arrived or how long he'd been watching. I instinctively hid my hand behind my back. Don't hide it, his voice was hoarse, his eyes very red. Go wash it quickly. I need to deliver the food first. Get in the car, I'll take you. The customer lived on the first floor. When I delivered the food, the person muttered, Jesus, even people driving Porsches are delivering takeout? I had another order to deliver. Troy said, don't deliver it. I can't, I made too little tonight. Then I'll buy it. What? With a ding, the system automatically accepted the order he assigned. I'll buy your time for tonight. Troy took me to his place. I stood at the entrance, refusing to go in. Carly Winter will get mad. Troy said, you still have time to worry about others? Look at how badly you've fallen. Apart from the scrape on my palm, I was covered in dirty snow water. Also, Rita, look around this room. Does it look like a woman has been here? You two aren't living together? I was never with her. Troy threw a contract at me. Half a year ago, she came to me proposing a collaboration. She didn't want to be coerced into anything, so she asked me to pretend to be her boyfriend. In return, she would help me deal with troublesome clients. He paused, fearing I wouldn't understand, and further explained. Some clients like to send women to people's beds, thinking everyone falls for it. It's very annoying, so Carly Winter helps me fend them off. The contract clearly stated that they wouldn't interfere in each other's personal lives. Troy took my hand and treated my wound. I saw a row of unopened hand creams on the shelf. It was my favorite brand, and Troy had bought the whole set and kept it at home. Today, I asked around with your colleagues. He began heavily. You don't have a boyfriend. At last week's team building, you even said you were single. Rita Cotton, you lied to me on purpose, didn't you? I didn't lie to you. Then show me a photo of you and that man. I don't have any photos. You're someone who loves taking pictures, yet you don't have a single photo with your new lover? You reminded me, I'll take one next time and show you. Troy laughed in exasperation. He suddenly leaned on the sofa, completely enveloping me, the pressure overwhelming. I couldn't move, and even through the sweater, I could feel his warm body heat. I bought your time. You know what you need to do, right? I'll refund you, Troy, I'm really getting married. His hand slid down my shoulder but stopped at my wrist. Getting married, yet still wearing the bracelet your ex-boyfriend gave you? Isn't that inappropriate? There is a chain on my wrist that has long since lost its shine over time. It was the first gift Troy gave me. When I was 19 years old. There was a week when, apart from attending classes, I hardly saw him. He was busy with various part-time jobs, working harder than ever. On my birthday, my parents threw a party for me at an upscale restaurant. I told Troy, but he didn't come. I waited and waited until the evening, and finally, his call came. He said he was waiting for me at the restaurant entrance. In the heavy snow, my young man stood tall like a pine tree. He was travel-worn, just like I am today, his yellow delivery uniform covered in mud. Back then, I didn't understand anything and only complained that he was too late. Troy rubbed my head and said he brought me a birthday gift. The bracelet was a basic model, not expensive, but it was entirely beyond his financial means. I liked it very much and put it on my wrist right away, never taking it off again. Later, my parents called me, asking who I was talking to. They didn't like Troy, thinking he wasn't good enough for me. When I turned back, Troy had already disappeared into the wind and snow. To this day, I occasionally think about it. At least when I was 19, Troy liked me, right? That bracelet was something he worked day and night to earn. Was he, like me tonight, running through the snow, falling down, but still bravely moving forward for that bracelet? But now? He presses me down, forcing me. His house is filled with luxury items I used to like. Does he still miss me, or is he humiliating me? I can't figure it out, and my eyes involuntarily moisten. Troy was stunned and immediately began to panic. He has always been at a loss when I cry. This part is exactly the same as before. He hurriedly wiped my tears. Don't cry, it's my fault. I was just trying to scare you. Today is your 26th birthday. I bought you a new bracelet. What? I had forgotten that today was my birthday. Troy took out a new gift box. Look, Do you like it? He wanted to help me change the bracelet. Rita, can we? Before he finished speaking, the doorbell rang. Wesley stood at the door. Where is Rita? I'm here to pick her up. Who are you? I'm her fiancé. Didn't she tell you? Troy was stunned, and the bracelet fell onto the carpet. I left with Wesley. I had known Wesley from before. When my family hadn't gone bankrupt, he confessed to me, but back then, I was wholly focused on Troy and rejected him several times. Until last week, he suddenly came to me. Wesley said that as long as I married him, he would help me pay off my debts. I asked why. He smugly said, I want to prove that you chose the wrong person back then, only I can save you, that poor guy will just drag you down. Oh, he wants to marry me just for his heroism. Just to corner me. How ridiculous. Today, I had no choice but to ask him for help. Just a phone call, so I could find an excuse to get away. I don't know how he managed to find his way here. I said coldly, why pretend to be my fiancé? What's the difference? We're getting married soon anyway. I haven't agreed yet. Do you have any other choices? Miss Cotton, be realistic. You're deep in debt, whoever marries you will be a fool. Besides me, who else would want you? That guy just now? Wesley was disdainful. He was your poor college boyfriend, right? Let me tell you, he came back to humiliate you. He used to be oppressed by you, not daring to resist. Now that you're down and out, who knows how much he's laughing at you inside. That's none of your business. How is it not? I lost you to him back then. Now I have to put him in his place. Wesley, I'm not your possession. I didn't agree to you before, and I never will. I got out of the car, and Wesley didn't stop me. Is it up to you to agree or not? Rita, think about your family. His frivolous face somehow reminded me of the past. Those who slandered and ridiculed Troy must have been like this. In Troy's heart, am I like this too? News of my return spread among my classmates. Along with it, the story of my family's misfortune. My college roommate, Marina, reached out to me again. She was getting married and asked if I still wanted to be her bridesmaid. It was a promise we had made, the one who got married later would be the other's bridesmaid. On the wedding day, many old classmates came, and I added everyone's contact information one by one. Marina wore a wedding dress, tears in her eyes. Rita, I always thought you would be the first to get married among the four of us. If I got married, how could I be your bridesmaid? How dare you say that? You disappeared for 4 years, I was so mad at you. I was wrong. I won't leave again, I'll stay and make it up to you. Marina smiled through her tears. Why did you vanish back then? If you had troubles, you should have told us, we could have helped you. I looked down at my toes. After thinking for a while, I spoke from my heart about the past years. I had never faced such a big setback in my life, Marina. You know, it felt like my whole world was collapsing. I didn't know what to do, and I was afraid to face everyone's gaze, even pity felt like a stab. It was a moment of impulse, I erased all contact information. Marina sighed, Troy almost went crazy looking for you. What? I was stunned. You didn't know? He tried everything, asking teachers and the school, he almost called the police. He was just a poor student, without many connections, and when he couldn't find you, he went to your home. Marina watched my face and continued. You know, he was very afraid of your parents. But he mustered the courage to go. But who could have known, your whole family was gone, even your parents. That was the first time I saw Troy break down. He sat at your doorstep and cried like a baby. Later, he heard you might be in the South, so he went looking for you, but he didn't find you. Where were you? I said slowly, G City, Y City, K City, too many places to count. Because we were constantly being chased for debts, my family changed names and moved almost every half-month. No wonder, it would have been strange if he found you. Marina clicked her tongue. In the end, he returned to B City, disheartened, and started working on that missing person data system of his. I didn't understand. I thought Troy didn't care about my whereabouts at all. Before graduating from senior year, I had overheard his conversation with a male dorm mate. His friend asked, "What are your plans after graduation? Will you marry Rita?" Troy replied coldly, "No. That day, I was devastated. Soon after, my family fell into ruin. I directly broke up with him, and he didn't try to stop me. So why did he look for me everywhere? Did he regret it after losing me? I felt a bit lost. When Marina tossed the bouquet, I got distracted and didn't catch it. The bouquet landed in Troy's hands. The MC said, "This gentleman caught the bouquet. Congratulations, good things are coming your way. Will you give it to your girlfriend?" "No need for that." Troy walked towards me. He handed me the bouquet. The whole room erupted in cheers, almost lifting the roof. Even Marina was screaming. I didn't know whether to take it or not. "Troy, you've met my fiancé. Though he was fake. I don't believe your taste would be that bad. Just pretend my taste is bad. All right, even if he were real." Troy leaned slightly, whispering in my ear. "Then abandon him and come back to me." His deep voice was like a spell, full of temptation. I almost gave in. Just almost. After all these years, Troy could still dance wildly in my aesthetic zone. After the ceremony, old classmates came to drink with me. I accidentally drank too much. Later, I remember sitting in the stairwell. No matter how noisy it was outside, the stairwell was always the quietest place. Troy found me. "Why are you here?" I turned around and pouted at him. Then burst into tears. "Troy, I'm tired." Troy was responsible for taking me home. I had been crying the whole time and couldn't walk. After getting out of the car, he carried me in his arms. "I'm so tired. I have to work every day. When will it ever end?" Yesterday, a customer spilled wine all over me. It was so unfair. It wasn't even my fault. "Troy, I want to eat salmon and sweet shrimp. I've almost forgotten what they taste like." The alcohol made me incoherent. Troy patiently comforted me, but I didn't listen to a word he said. The last thing I remember is him placing me on his sofa. He asked me, "What's so good about your fiancé?" I mumbled, "He helped me pay off my debt." "I can do that too, Rita. I'm better than him. I know what you like and dislike, and I know how to make you happy. Rita, please, don't ever disappear again, okay?" After that, I don't remember anything. The next day, I woke up in Troy's bed. Completely naked. The dining table was filled with sashimi of all kinds. There was also a plate of oranges, neatly sliced. Troy said, "I took the day off for you. You don't have to go to work today." "Okay." I sat down but quickly jumped up. "You took the day off for me?" "Yes." "You talked to my boss?" "So what?" "He'll get the wrong idea. There's nothing to misunderstand. Everything between us is real." I was at a loss for words. "I asked your boss. You're not working in programming to make it easier to do part-time jobs?" "Yes, programming jobs pay well, but they require a lot of overtime. I can earn more each month by doing multiple part-time jobs. Starting next month, go back to your programming job. You can quit all the part-time jobs." "No," I declined politely, "I haven't coded in a long time. I'm rusty." "It's okay, I'll teach you again." He focused on peeling a shrimp, dipped it in sauce, and placed it in my bowl. Just like before. He always carefully peeled every shrimp for me. In college, I wasn't very good at programming. But with a genius boyfriend tutoring me for free, it was hard not to do well. I whispered, "I've really forgotten everything." Troy scribbled a few lines on a piece of paper and sat next to me. "These are some basics. I'll help you remember." At that moment, it really felt like going back in time. My young love sat beside me, gently explaining the problems. After we finished eating, I wanted to go back to my place. I didn't let Troy take me. On the subway, I spaced out and suddenly received a message from Carly Winter. "Rita, please don't make Troy sad anymore, okay?" "What do you mean?" "All these years, he's actually been wanting to repay you." "Repay what?" "Money." Carly sent a screenshot. In the college dorm group, Troy said, "It's all paid off." "What a relief." Others replied, "Congrats. Finally, a huge burden lifted. Now you're free in spirit." I was dumbfounded. A debt repayment message came in. "The debt has been fully paid off. Payer, Troy Gerber." All the blood in my body froze. My hand holding the phone kept trembling. Thinking back to everything, Troy went crazy looking for me. After we reunited, he promoted me and gave me a raise. The things he said, the things he did, including last night. It turns out, it was all to repay a debt. That's all there was to it. Yes, at the KTV, Carly did say he hated me. Maybe that was the truth. Troy doesn't like owing anyone. From beginning to end, I was just a burden in his heart, a creditor. At this moment, endless sorrow swallowed me. I didn't even know how to blame him. 8 years ago, I was the one who dragged him to an unequal position with me. Since then, it's been hard to correct. He is very upright and didn't take my contributions for granted. He politely remembered them until now. But it would have been better if he had forgotten. There was a nameless fire in my heart. My fingertips trembled as I sent a message to Troy. Who told you to repay my debt without permission? Isn't it good to repay it? You won't have to work multiple jobs anymore. I don't need it. Rita, don't be stubborn. I should have done this long ago. I always wanted to repay you for my grandfather's medical expenses. His words stung me once again. I will save up to repay you. From now on, let's not contact each other except for business. Troy called me many times afterward, but I didn't want to answer. I took an extra day off and locked myself in my room, sleeping like a log. It was as if I wanted to make up for all the sleep I had missed over the years. The next morning, my mom told me. Troy stood downstairs all night. I took the subway to work. Troy gave up his Porsche and took the subway with me. In the evening, I went to my part-time job at the KTV as usual. He booked a small room and sat at the door, watching me come and go. He was like a moving statue, following me wherever I went. This repeated for several days. I finally couldn't stand it and said, "Stop following me. If I don't follow, you'll disappear." He counted on his fingers. Disappear to another city, disappear to the stairwell, disappear and not answer the phone. You make me worry. I choked up and said, I promise to repay you the money, so I won't disappear again. There should be trust between people, right? Troy frowned. What are you talking about? I don't need you to repay the money. He continued to be the shadow behind me. Until Friday, he didn't show up. Carly called me angrily. Troy hit someone. Troy hit Wesley. The reason was that they attended an industry gathering today. Suddenly, someone mentioned the long-gone Cotton family. Wesley talked eloquently. Mr. Cotton has a daughter named Rita Cotton. She's so beautiful. She used to be hard to get, but now she's easy. Her family hasn't cleared their debt, right? I promised to help Rita repay the money, and she obediently followed me. That girl, even if you spend a lot of money to bring her home, it's worth it. Before he finished speaking, Troy's fist landed on him. In front of so many industry people, he beat up the rich second generation of the White family. Outside the clinic, Carly blamed me. Troy has no background and has fought his way up alone. It's harder for him than anyone else, but now because of you, he's bound to offend some people. Carly was furious. Rita Cotton, if you don't help him, fine, but can you stop harming him? Harming? Carly Winter, what right do you have to question me? Carly was stunned. You two are just partners. Didn't you agree not to interfere in each other's private lives? He even told you that. Carly was deeply hurt. In a moment, her eyes reddened, and she became very aggrieved. Rita, Troy, and I are just partners, but I truly like him. You've been gone for so long, can't you continue to stay away and leave him to me? You like him? Yes. This was unexpected to me. Because. Wasn't it you who led the rumors about Troy in school back then? Carly's face instantly turned pale. I just disappeared, but I didn't lose my memory. I looked at her coldly. After Troy and I got together, you once cornered me in the girls' bathroom. Do you remember what you said then? You said, Rita, how much did you pay to keep Troy? Carly was panic-stricken. I don't remember. Later, someone called Troy a gigolo to his face. Did you forget that too? That nasty nickname also started from you, didn't it? No, you're making things up. I don't understand the rules of your circle, but if it comes out that a big star once verbally bullied a classmate, what would your fans think? Rita Cotton. Carly raised her voice. Now you're the one spreading rumors. Oh. Should I find a few classmates to testify? She deflated instantly. Please, Rita, I can give you any amount of money you want, just don't bring this up again, okay? And don't tell Troy, I was young and foolish back then and hurt him, but now I really like him, I can make it up to him. Even now, you think you only hurt him? I shook my head helplessly. Carly, you hurt me too. Then I apologize to you. She was flustered. Please, Rita, don't tell Troy, don't ruin his image of me. Before she finished speaking, the curtain in the examination room was suddenly pulled open. Troy stood at the window. He seemed to have been there for a long time. Carly was driven away, looking devastated. Troy is not a forgiving person. He hated those rumors from back then, so naturally, he had no kind words for Carly. Troy rarely uses foul language. But being a top student, he can create a lasting impression without using a single bad word. Carly probably won't dare to see him again. Are you okay? I looked at Troy. His wound was shallow and had been treated. Will it affect your company? Don't worry, it's not a big problem. But Wesley needs stitches. Stitches are too good for him, I hope he gets a scar. Troy suddenly laughed. That's more like it. What? That's more like you. How long has it been since you said something so reckless? Say a few more things, I want to hear. Sunlight hit the snow, and we bickered all the way. Suddenly, it felt like being back in our school days. I let out all the pent-up emotions of these years, talking and crying. Can you wait for me? I will pay you back all the money. Troy started to panic again. What are you talking about? And why did you suddenly get angry before? It was wrong of me to pay off your debt without asking, but you can't just ignore me. You treated me like a burden, how dare I face you? Burden? Troy frowned. Who said that? Carly Winter. Wait, could she have been trying to drive a wedge between us? But the screenshot must be real. I pulled out the chat records. Troy looked very angry. I wasn't talking about you at all. Troy took out the chat logs from his phone. He had told his roommate that he had paid off a batch of overdue project funds for the company. Only then did those conversations happen. Somehow, the chat logs ended up in Carly's hands, and she misinterpreted them. But how did she know you were going to help me pay off my debt? She has experience with paying off debts for others, so I asked her about it. Troy drove to his house. It was the third time I had come to this place, but my mood was completely different from before. Let's take advantage of today and have an open talk. Troy poured me a cup of coffee. Rita, I have a lot of questions for you. Go ahead. Why did we break up? I became a burden. After thinking it over, breaking up seemed better. Not because you got tired of me? I was stunned for a moment and remembered that tired was the reason I gave when we broke up. After I said those words, Troy left without looking back. He said heavily, I thought you treated me like a plaything. After 4 years, you got tired of me. Plus, with your family's changes, I couldn't help with anything, so you didn't want me anymore. How could he think that? I opened my mouth but hadn't answered yet. Troy quickly added, even if that's the case, it's okay. As if afraid to hear the answer, he showed his cards first. Written, I've already made up my mind. Even if I'm just a plaything, I still want to stay by your side. Troy's eyes were as dark and moist as they were back then. I took a while to digest his words before speaking. You've misunderstood. Those were angry words. Troy, I never treated you as a plaything. I was serious about our relationship. Why were they angry words? Before the graduation ceremony, you told your roommate you wouldn't marry me. This time, it was Troy's turn to be stunned. He thought about it for a long time and then smiled wryly. What I meant at the time was that I didn't have the ability to get married right after graduation. Actually, I had been looking at engagement rings for a long time, but I simply couldn't afford one. We compared event after event. We realized we both had misunderstood each other. Why did this happen? The root cause was the huge gap in our real-life conditions. Troy thought I was helping him for fun, and I thought Troy was grateful for my previous help and felt obliged to be with me. We both didn't believe the other loved us. Back to the present. Troy asked, Rita, why would you rather accept Wesley's help than mine? Because I love you and didn't want our relationship to develop in that way. I suddenly understood. Troy nodded. Exactly, I felt the same way back then. Wait, when I confessed to you, did you already like me? Yes, Rita, I liked you even before that. From the first time we met during freshman registration, when you said your name was Rita Cotton, I remembered it. Troy's narration made me reevaluate my naive self back then. He had feelings for me earlier than I did for him. But he confessed a step too late. And my way of showing affection was wrong from the start. I used what he lacked most to lure him. It made it hard for him to speak up. He had actually said many times that he liked me. But no one believed him. Everyone thought he was lying to please me. Over time, I believed it, and even he almost believed it too. Did he like Rita Cotton, or was it Grandpa's medical expenses? After being mocked countless times and realizing the gap between us, Troy himself couldn't figure it out. He was conflicted and tormented himself day after day. Anyone could help him. Except me. Because money would taint the love. If Troy weren't so strong-willed, he could have stayed comfortably by my side. But he didn't. And because he didn't, that's why I liked him. Troy picked up an orange and started cutting it slowly. I suddenly remembered the day we reunited. What did you mean by those words? If you can say angry words, why can't I? I thought you got tired of me, dumped me, and disappeared for 4 years, as if you were deliberately avoiding me. Can't I be angry? It seemed reasonable. But Carly said you hated me. Sorry, that's my fault for not refuting her in time. Troy carefully finished cutting the last slice of the orange. He sighed softly. After all, I thought you really didn't want me anymore. Snow was falling outside the window. It made the room feel dry and warm. At this moment, I finally confirmed that in the river of time, this man was trudging towards me. During the anniversary celebration of our alma mater, Troy and I both went back for a visit. As an outstanding alumnus, he had to go on stage to give a speech. The school was still the same, only the young faces had changed over time. There will always be young people. There will always be people full of vigor and dreams. The name tag of a graduate fell out of my pocket. A senior student helped me pick it up and said in surprise, "Are you Rita Cotton? You know me? I'm an intern at Troy's company. You're quite famous in our company." Really? I had visited Troy's company once and waited for him at the front desk. When the receptionist registered my name, she had the same reaction. "Are you Rita Cotton?" To this day, I still don't know why. The junior said, for one of the company's projects, there was once a set of core underlying algorithms, which were said to have been written by Troy when he first developed the system. He left a note. "If you meet Rita Cotton, please tell her I love her." Everyone who has worked with this set of algorithms has seen this note. I was dazed for a long time, then I heard the junior happily say, "That's great, Troy finally found the person he was looking for." After the speech, Troy and I walked slowly along the paths we used to take. We walked to the entrance of the library. Troy looked at the big tree on the left. "You confessed to me here back then." "Yes, I remember, I was really brave then." He stared blankly, his memories seemed to drift far away. "Troy, were you happy during college?" He had struggled, been slandered, and felt lonely. I thought he must have been unhappy. But Troy said, "Very happy. Because with you around, even pain turned into happiness." He turned around, just like back then, looking down at me. "Rita, now it's my turn to speak. It's almost the 9th year since I started liking you. Give me a chance, okay?" It started snowing again. Snowflakes fell on his head. I smiled. "In the new year, boyfriend, please take care of me. Happy New Year, my youth. Happy New Year, my boy. Even if there are regrets, we will always be our best selves." Extra chapter, Male Protagonist's Perspective. The first time I saw Rita Cotton was at the freshman orientation. She was wearing a white dress, walking through the sunlit corridor. From then on, all my fantasies and dreams had a concrete form. I liked her, but I knew she was different from me. We came from 2 different worlds. She was the princess at the pinnacle of the ivory tower, genuine and pure. Her feet had never touched the dusty earth, spotless. She was moonlight, something I could admire but never attain. She was the source of all my inferiority. How could I dare to hope for her? Even hoping was a sin. My parents passed away early, and only my grandfather raised me. Last winter, my grandfather's leg was frostbitten and disabled, and he could no longer work to support the family. All the burdens fell on me. I needed tuition and his medical expenses. After losing the poverty grant, I felt as if I was being pushed into an abyss and began to question the concept of fairness. I never expected my moonlight to shine in at that moment. The second she said she liked me, my blood boiled. But when she said she could give me money for a kiss, I froze and completely entered an ice cellar. What did she take me for? Someone who could be bought with money? But Rita's eyes were too pure, showing no sign of manipulation. I didn't agree. Until my grandfather was critically ill and needed to be admitted to the ICU, the high medical expenses completely crushed me. Rita appeared and handed over the money without blinking an eye. She smiled and asked, "Will you be with me?" This time, I agreed. Not because of the medical expenses, but because I couldn't resist when she acted coyly. Later, I realized that Rita's life had been too smooth, and she didn't even see money as an advantage. She helped me not to show off her virtues. In her eyes, money wasn't a virtue, money was just money. Therefore, she was purer than anyone. Rita liked me very much and would always hold my hand wherever we went. Her hand was small and soft, without any calluses. I was afraid the calluses on my hand would hurt her, but Rita liked to rub my hand. Sometimes I felt like a knight. I only dared to act when the princess asked me to. If the princess didn't speak, I wouldn't dare to approach her rashly. Rita was also very proactive, but her initiative never felt frivolous. Instead, it was full of enthusiasm and sincerity. But gradually, rumors started spreading in the school. Even the teacher who always valued me hinted that I should pay attention to my morals and conduct. I liked Rita, but I didn't want to become the kind of person they talked about. I once thought about breaking up, but I couldn't bear it. Who could bear to leave Rita? No one. She was the best, a gift from God. The rumors became more excessive, and I immersed myself in books and work, trying to avoid listening to them. But one day, Rita's father found me. Behind her back, he asked me to leave her. He said I wasn't worthy of their family. Of course, I didn't agree. Despite her father's many threats afterward, as long as Rita didn't give up, I wouldn't let go of her hand. I wanted to prove with all my might that I could love Rita and provide her with a good future. Whatever other girlfriends had, Rita should have too. If my roommate gave his girlfriend a bracelet, then Rita should have one too. I worked like crazy delivering food and tutoring, finally saving up some money to buy Rita a bracelet. But, I'm sorry, dear, I can't go to your birthday party. If my presence would subject you to ridicule and gossip, I'd rather not show up. Stumbling through senior year, I inexplicably started looking at engagement rings. So expensive, I couldn't even afford the scraps. Rita would have to wait. Many companies offered me high-paying jobs, and if I got investment, I wanted to start my own business. Gradually, I could buy an engagement ring and buy a house, a wedding dress, everything she liked. My ideas were recognized by the company executives, and I might get a raise early. When I was about to share this good news with Rita, she broke up with me. She said she was tired of it. At that moment, I felt like a fool. What was I expecting? Expecting Moonlight to have mercy on an ant like me? No, I was just a plaything. I left, locking myself up in anger for 2 days. Then I realized I couldn't live without Rita. A plaything is a plaything, as long as I was the best plaything. I went to find Rita, only to discover she had disappeared. Completely vanished. I quit my job, and relying only on hearsay, I searched for her in unfamiliar cities. She always ran so fast, not leaving a single trace for me. But I heard her family went bankrupt. I had no money to help her pay off debts, so did she leave me? It was the first time I hated myself so much. When my savings ran out, I had to return to B-City, staying with friends and starting to develop a system. As my network expanded, all sorts of things about the Cotton family came to light. I gradually sobered up and realized one thing. Bankruptcy wasn't just talk. Rita's ivory tower had collapsed. She fell into the unfamiliar world. Now, is she okay? You see, I'm so torn. Angry on one side, yet worried about her on the other. I still couldn't find Rita. To avoid debts, it seemed her family changed their names. I bought many things Rita used to like. The hand cream she used, fragrant, I bought the whole set. And bags, skincare products, as long as she came back, she could continue to use them. In the 4th year of Rita's disappearance, I finally saw her. That night, I deliberately waited until the last one left, following her after she got off work. The elevator descended from the 20th floor to the 1st. A few short minutes. But it felt longer than the past 20 years. Why did she pretend not to know me? Why did she always want to run away? Did she not want to see me that much? Risking being hated, I called out to her. The brim of her hat lifted, and I finally saw her face clearly. She had become so thin, her eyes lost the spark they once had. When she talked to Carly Winter, I was just staring at her face, almost forgetting to breathe. What shocked me the most was, she was working multiple jobs. Just like I did back then. Her hands had calluses. I almost cried. God knows, I never cried even when life was tough, but seeing calluses on Rita's hands made me want to cry. Rita said she had a boyfriend. I didn't believe it until that unremarkable man appeared before me. I wanted to punch him. I've always considered myself a decent person. For the first time, I wanted to do something unethical. I wanted to take Rita back. I'm not poor now. I can give her a better life. Those debts are nothing now. I'm very sure of my feelings now. I love Rita. I love her past purity and her current resilience. In some ways, we are very similar. A new year has arrived. Rita asked me, "What do you think is the most resilient thing in the world?" I said, "Moonlight." She was puzzled, looking out the window. But she didn't know. I was looking at her. I once thought moonlight had fallen. But seeing her fall and stand up again, life couldn't defeat her. Why moonlight? She still foolishly looked outside. Because even in despair, moonlight never falls. I kissed her forehead. I will always love moonlight.